Hi guys, so today we're going to be talking about procrastination. Yep, procrastination. Everyone's favorite hated pastime. So in this video, we're going to learn how to stop procrastinating. We're going to learn 2 coaching techniques that I use with my clients that help them overcome procrastination. But first, we're going to define procrastination, and we're going to talk about why people procrastinate and kind of the science behind procrastination, just to kind of lay that foundation. So procrastination is the unintentional delay of a task when you know it would serve you better to do that task now. There's quite a bit of research on procrastination. I recently read an excellent book on procrastination, which I will link below, and it's fairly research heavy, so it's not, like a fun read, but it's actually quite interesting if you're interested in the science of procrastination. But if you're not wanting to read like this long book on procrastination, just watch this video and I will condense some of the most interesting and useful tips from the book. So the authors in this book mention that people are often so afraid of failure that they self-handicap by creating an external reason for their poor performance. So in our case, this reason is procrastination. Chronic procrastination is one of those self-handicapping behaviors. We also know from research that shame and fear of social evaluation makes procrastination worse. So let's break this down a little bit. Let's say that a person has a task that they need to do that's important, and they fear failing at this task because it means so much to them, and they're not sure in their ability to complete the task. This line of thinking makes them feel quite a bit of negative emotion, fear, uncertainty, insecurity. Then procrastination comes in as a way to pull away from this activity, this task that makes them feel bad, as an attempt to feel good now, but with a cost. Research indicates that people who procrastinate place way more importance on the present emotional state, and they discount their future selves and fail at projecting themselves into the future. So you might have heard of this concept of the future self, and it's just kind of our conceptualization of ourselves when we are in the future. We know that people who procrastinate more perceive the future self almost like they would perceive a stranger. So now that we know a little bit about the background of procrastination and maybe why people procrastinate, let's get into some tools and mindsets that we can use to help us procrastinate less. So the first one is a little bit crazy, and I feel like whenever I recommend this to people, they think that it's a little bit out there. But what I tell people, and what I tell my clients in particular, is that I want them to actually enjoy the procrastination. And this sounds so counterintuitive because procrastination is often so heavy with shame and guilt, and people are like, what? Like, I can't even imagine enjoying my procrastination. But this is super key. It's called normalizing in psychology, and I would really encourage you to lean into the procrastination. And next time you find yourself procrastinating, I want you to think like, yeah, way to go me, I'm procrastinating. Like, this is amazing. Like, I'm doing such a great job at, browsing Instagram that I just want to pat myself on the back, and I'm really enjoying this, and Instagram is super fun, and this is such an amazing break from what I was doing. And I feel really kind of great doing this, checking up on my friends on Instagram, all the accounts I follow, whatever your kind of chosen method of procrastination is, you can kind of insert that here. Okay, so I'm gonna tell you my reasoning behind this because just to make sure that you guys understand. My reasoning behind this technique is that procrastination is an emotional regulation technique. And we know this very clearly. There's really good research on this. And emotion regulation technique is really psychology speak for just something that we do to make ourselves feel better in the moment. When we have negative emotions, we do something that we try to regulate that emotion. Instead of just sitting with it, we try to make ourselves feel better. The thing about procrastination is that we often try to really resist it. And when we resist it, or when we do it, we often feel super guilty for doing it. And then basically there's no kind of good outcome to this emotional regulation technique because you initially started procrastinating to try to make yourself feel better, but then you self-judge yourself and make yourself feel guilty, and therefore it diminishes the effect and the potential for procrastination as an emotion regulation technique. Because if we make ourselves feel guilty about an emotion regulation technique that we're using, this diminishes its capacity and essentially kind of creates almost like a vicious cycle of procrastination. So if you think about it, you have a task that you're dreading and you feel really emotionally bad about it. And so you start procrastinating to try to make yourself feel better, but then you make yourself feel guilty about procrastinating, and then you have to procrastinate more because you're again in a negative mood state. So it's like round and round, right? And sometimes that's why it feels sometimes hard to stop procrastinating. I really want you guys to try this next time, and when you find yourself procrastinating, and really get into it and, you know, think like, yes, I'm procrastinating, way to go me. I'm guessing that will also actually take away a little bit of that illicit enjoyment of procrastination and kind of diminish some of its power. Now that we've made better friends with procrastination, we can actually start working with it, and it's not as shameful and scary. So I'm going to share with you 2 coaching techniques that I use that can help you overcome some of your procrastination. And the first is I like to call top 5 negative emotions, which sounds really, really unpleasant now that I think of it. So as we know, procrastination is an emotion regulation technique, and it is used to avoid feeling negative emotion. So procrastination is actually a maladaptive strategy because it actually usually leads to more negative emotion in the long term. So it's not, you know, the optimal strategy, but we know that procrastination can never really get rid of your negative emotion, and only your thoughts can really do that, and kind of the story you tell yourself, your self-narrative. So one exercise I use with my clients to help them be more comfortable with negative emotions is to ask them which 5 negative emotions are worth achieving your dreams. So most of us are willing to admit that we can expect to feel a certain level of uncertainty and stress and fear in creating something that's great. By deciding that you're willing to feel those negative emotions ahead of time can really diminish some of your resistance against them, and therefore diminish your need to procrastinate. Okay, and so for the second technique, the second coaching technique when it comes to procrastination, I call it FBR, and it is not invented by me. It's actually invented by a physicist and author named Safi Bahcall. So we know that perfectionism is highly, highly correlated with procrastination. And although perfectionism is somewhat glorified in our society and it kind of sounds like it might be a good thing, it's actually not. Research shows that it's not a great strategy. And so I encourage you to use this following mantra when you are stuck and you are kind of in that procrastination cycle. You want to try to do your work with the mantra fast, bad, and wrong. So you go into your work and you think, I'm going to do this work fast, bad, and wrong. I'm going to write this essay. It's going to be fast, bad, wrong. So yeah, you guys are probably like, what is happening in this video? So as we know, procrastination is really fueled by fear. Procrastination needs fear to keep it going. Without fear, procrastination has nothing. It's almost like a car without gas. And the fear that our work will not measure up, it's scary. But if we can focus on doing work that is fast, bad, and wrong, then we can get a little bit of that fear out. We can diminish that fear. And obviously, in most instances, your work does not turn out to be fast, bad, and wrong. I mean, maybe it'll be fast, but even if you're aiming for the worst work possible, you're still probably going to surprise yourself and do much better than you expected. But the idea here is to really get over that mental burden that we place on ourselves of having this unachievable goal. And as we know, that once you have your first draft or your first pass at something, it's really much easier to keep going and do a second draft. And the key here is to really diminish the overhead in starting. Okay, I hope you guys that this was helpful. Comment below if you have any questions, and please subscribe to the channel. I love hearing questions from you guys, and hit the like button if you think this video is helpful. And I will see you guys next week with another video. All right, take care.